I slap you, aka Shady Gang, count me.
Yo, this is Big Ball from Queens. Kings from Queens.
We got
That's
a
what
special
we got a
guest.
special guest. We Borough Bread.
Borough Bread.
Yo, we got a special guest in the building.
He came from Brooklyn and he started doing it real major. I've been in his house. You know, he's paid. That's all you need to know.
I'm not paid, bro. Yeah. No, watch this. Your wife say his whole name.
Anthony.
No. Say the whole thing, White.
I can't right now.
He said, earlier he said, yeah, man, Roger. How you know him for years, yo? How you not gonna know the last name?
I know his name. I talk a little funny sometimes.
Rogerson. How do you pronounce the last name? Rogerson. There you go. No, you didn't say that. You didn't say anything.
I said Rogerson.
It's Anthony Rogerson. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Anthony Rogerson in the building.
Yo.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
I thank y'all for having me.
Thank you.
Check hasn't cleared yet. This is going very short. I've been talking about the check for a whole 2 weeks.
Yeah, he was. He was. The white show.
Well, I sent it to the manager. The manager's in Brooklyn right now.
Big shout out to my man Kenyatta. Man, my dude Kenyatta, man. But how you been, man? Been good?
That's good. That's good, man. Good to see y'all. Good to see y'all. How y'all been?
We good. We good, man. Trying this out. Hopefully everything works out. If not, the white has to go somewhere else.
It's working out. We on set right now in an undisclosed location.
Yeah,
It's very exotic, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. You like the set? You like the
I like it all. I like it all.
Thank you. All right,
So we got a little location, but now we got Anthony in the building. He's gonna be speaking on real estate and all the stuff. He came from Brooklyn, New York. If y'all don't know where he's from, he's gonna elaborate on that. And I'm from the Bronx. Everybody gotta know I'm from the Bronx. Where you from here?
come on, man. Everybody know I'm from Queens, man.
From Queens. See how little Queens.
He has to show this shirt. So he goes.
Oh, I got Anthony's shirt. I forgot to bring his shirt. I'm gonna give it to him before the show. Like I'm gonna give
I want my check. I don't want
Oh,
no
shit. Yo, you're gonna like the shirt though. The shirt is there.
Shirt. Money over shirt.
I want my check, bro. I want shirt. Shirts don't pay bills.
Nah, man, it's going man. You gonna have something that nobody else gonna have though.
Yeah, a foreclosure sign. I'm check with my money.
This is why we bought it. He's probably the only man that can kind of calm me down a little bit, you know.
Oh, yeah,
I'm here for the strength, I'm here for the love.
That's what's up, man. I appreciate it, man.
So, how it all started, Anthony? Like coming from Brooklyn to Atlanta, what's the transition? How did the journey start?
Oh man, I don't know. It's a long journey. It's a long transition. I guess it's long. It's too long to kind of talk about, right? Like I sum it up, and I've been in Atlanta 15 years now.
Okay.
So came to Atlanta 05, 06. I'm back in 05, 06. Just very naive, right? Like I would love to sit here and tell people, where I am now, I knew this is what I was going to be doing.
Right.
I had no idea where I was going to be. I just knew I wanted something different than where I was.
Right.
So we sit here and we talk about the borough breads and white screens, Bronx, you scream Queens, I scream Brooklyn.
Right.
We all come from, the boroughs, right?
Right.
So in many regards, the boroughs are outside from the Bronx, and the Bronx is a little different than everything else.
It's all Florida. It's all Florida.
But by and large, it's, we all coming from poverty.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Like we all come from poverty.
Yeah, the parts of where we come from. Yeah.
We all come from poverty. So came down to Atlanta like 05, really like 04. 03, 04 just came to visit. And it was like the first time I saw like black affluence. Right? Like just excuse me. Came first time 96.
Okay.
Right? Came first time 96. It's like, wow, like there's black people living in houses. There's black people saying hello.
Yeah.
There's black people saying good morning.
Yeah.
There's black people saying how you doing.
Yeah.
Right? Then I would go back home and you know how we was. I can first one.
Yeah, man.
What the fuck was you looking at?
You know what I'm
saying? You know what I'm saying? So Atlanta had that seed had been planted going back to the mid to late 90s.
Right.
Life happens. You kind of get away from what you're thinking about.
Right.
Bring it up to speed. 05, 06 was able to get in position and finally make a move. Came here. Again, no real plan. The plan was just to win.
Right.
Like I can't. Again, I'm winning, but I'm busting my ass every day.
Right.
And that's how I got to Atlanta. Right, didn't come with a necessary plan. The plan was, and Anita B was on before me, and she was talking about the New York hustle. Right. My plan was to hustle. Right. My hustle. Right. My hustle. So if I'm talking to anybody else or anybody that's listening or that will be listening, work your hustle.
That's it.
Right. That's the advice that I share with people. Work your hustle, whatever your hustle is. Know what you can do. Right. And with respect to the show, I don't weigh heavy on New York over everything. Like, I don't really subscribe to that. Right. Because I think that brings an energy here, right, that I try to stay away from. Because for me, my testimony is Atlanta has only shown me love. Right. Like
you're a Falcons fan. I want to keep that. You a Falcons fan?
No, and I totally agree. The first
shirt.
Y'all say
you have no job in the Bronx.
The first shirt I had on out on show was what? New York born. It was New York bred and Atlanta grown.
Yeah.
Because I really grew up out here. You know what I mean? Like I may have a New York influence.
Right.
But that's as far as it goes.
I didn't have one job in New York.
Right. So I think that's important, right? Like for all the viewers that will be viewing, like it's very important. Just be respectful of. I actually get turned off by New Yorkers who wave the New York flag too aggressively.
Oh yeah.
Right. It's like if you wanted that, you could have
stayed in New York.
Exactly. Right? And I don't mean no disrespect. I just speak my perspective.
No, right. And that's really good that you're saying this because I look at it a little different. We are who we are because of New York and what we went through, and we came to a better. I'm not saying Atlanta's better than New York, but it gave us more opportunity to do stuff. So we use what we had in New York, and it just made us enhance whatever in Atlanta more.
Yeah, but he's absolutely right.
Because you're from Brooklyn, and where you from made who you are, yo.
Yeah, that's what everybody knows.
You know?
Our experience make us who we are. It's either, and again, they're gonna mold us, right? And do they break us? Do they build us? No one knows, but they're gonna mold us.
Exactly.
Right? So got here in 05, 06. I got a background in finance. Was able to.
You was in stockbroking at one point.
I was an equity trader. I traded U.S. and domestic equities. I did that. I worked on Wall Street for over 20 years. Before I got into real estate, I've been in mortgage banking now for 3 years. But prior to that, I was in did the whole Wall Street thing. But what Atlanta is now in terms of the financial opportunities. The opportunities in finance, those opportunities weren't necessarily there when I got here in 05 and 06.
Right.
So again, I talk to people who, say, well, I don't want to leave New York because I make $100,000 in New York. If I go to Atlanta, I'm only going to make $60,000. Right. That's a whole nother conversation. But I'll be very transparent. When I decided to leave New York and come to Atlanta, I took like a 50% pay cut. Right, and I was taking one step forward to go one step back to go 3 steps forward. Right. But that was just belief in my hustle. Right. Belief in myself. Right. And let me be also transparent. It's just not me. I'm married now. I was married at the time, and I have a wife by my side who I knew if I was gonna fumble, she was gonna be there to pick me up. Right. And if she would have fumbled, I would have been there to pick her up. Exactly. So that also speaks to having a partner that's by your side that's going to help you and assist in your. So our belief, or my belief, was my belief in us. Right. You could have dropped me on the moon. Right. Atlanta just happened to be the moon. Exactly. And the belief in what I knew I could do, and it was more or less naive than it was arrogance. Right. So I don't want to sit here and like, I knew this shit was gonna work. I was young. I was full of energy. I was full of like hope, and I was and that's what Atlanta kind of presented. Okay. Right? I didn't even have a plan. The plan was get here and figure shit out.
That's a fact, because when I met him, he had a fucked up expedition. He wasn't that guy. I'm saying.
Hold on. Pause.
You had a house.
I've always been that guy.
I mean, you might have. I'm not from Brooklyn, so I don't know about that Brooklyn shit. But I just know
You
about.
need a post. This nigga's fucking up. You gotta go.
No, I seen this. I met him.
When I was on Drink Champs, they never said I wasn't that guy. They had weed, they had Ace. They didn't treat me like this. And the check wasn't even clear. And you talking, you need a co-host?
Yo,
You just think I'm
This is like a
This show right to the next party. That's all I want.
But no, he's right. Like someone called my expedition a jalopy, right? And like you probably think I was like, but it's what I had. You know what I'm saying? So and the true testimony in that is moved here. And yes, I had a house, but we was sleeping. My wife and I, we were sleeping on fucking an air mattress, bro, for like 6 months.
Right.
A shit you plug in and that's what we were sleeping on.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying? But it was like, all right, this is an ends to a means. This is temporary. Like I used to play the Kanye song. It was like over Kanye's first and second album, and the hook was like, wait till I get my money. Right?
Oh, I know. That's one of my songs.
Yeah, that was my like alarm clock in the morning. I had a bullshit job. I hated going to. It was miserable.
Yo. There's a song I'm gonna send you after this by this dude named John Bellion. He made a whole song to that.
Okay.
Wait till I get my money. I listen to it every morning. Wait till I get my money right.
Yeah.
He made a whole song out of it.
I got another question. You was in stockbroker, now you in real estate. What made you transition? Like, cause a lot of people think, once you get to the stockbroker, I used to think you was that guy because you was doing that shit.
Yeah, the white stuff.
I know a stockbroker. I don't know what he do, but I know he's doing it.
Yeah.
And now you're gonna stop. And now you're doing real estate, and you seem like you're more happy now. I don't know if that's the case, but.
But I'm also older. With age comes wisdom, right? Like you begin to.
White's not there yet.
Yeah, he'll get older. He'll never get wiser. But no. So what made me switch was I had been in doing the Wall Street thing for some time, like a very long time. I was fortunate. I got blessed, and I was introduced to Wall Street at 15 years old. I was in a program. It was called the Student Sponsorship Program, and the student sponsorship program was a program for inner city kids. That means i.e. little niggas.
Yeah, exactly.
And I got connected with a guy by the name of Tom Gallagher back in like 89, 90. And Tom had some connections on Wall Street, and I did a summer internship. Right? I did a summer internship. I was 15. I was between my 9th grade and 10th grade year in high school, right? And I did a summer internship, and that's how I got introduced to Wall Street, right? At that time, I was working in the mailroom. Like I didn't even know what a corporate job was. Like they take kids from the projects, they'll tell you to show up downtown Manhattan, push this cart around. All I want to know is how much I'm getting paid.
Sounds like a Wolf of Wall Street movie right now, bro.
So it sounded like you was what's he's funny, he big too. I can't think of his name right now. The dude in coming to fuck, what's the nigga the movie with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence and all Boomerang and what's the skinny?
That was Chris Rock.
Chris Rock when he was pushing the cart around.
Yeah, no, that's how it used to be.
It
used to be like that. So I did that. So like my first summer, I did that. I pushed that around. I pushed the cart around or whatever. And I used to go to as a mailroom clerk. I used to have to go to all the floors and all the different departments in the office or whatever. And again, so to tie it into New York, we observe.
Yeah,
right. So in moving around to these different floors in the company, I would see some disgruntled workers, right, who would just like I would say this is no disrespect, but wearing khakis and shirts that was too big.
Right.
And then I would go upstairs to the trading floor and I would see all the guys and the women with the fancy pinstripe suits on. Right. This was before dress down Fridays and all that. Right. It was like with cufflinks and all. And I'm like, this shit just looks like money. I don't know what they doing. Wow. They doing a whole lot of fucking screaming and shit. I don't know what none of this shit means. Right. But this looks like money. Right? Wow. So every summer I would go back. And as I would go back, I went from doing the mailroom, then I would work in a different department, and I was just trying to get to that trading department because I knew that's where the money was. Right. I still ain't know shit, right? But I just knew where the money was. Right. Like after about 3 or 4 years of going back, I finally made it to the trading floor and started rubbing elbows with some people, learning some stuff. And then when I got out of college, when I graduated college, they offered me a job. When they offered me a job, that's how I started doing my trading.
And this is all coming. You in the projects in Brooklyn doing all this.
Yeah.
So like, how are you like moving? Because like a lot of people want to know like, yeah, you got a success story and you made it and you're trying to move further in your life, but like you're in Brooklyn doing all this shit. It ain't easy to be walking through the streets of New York and go downtown and be with all these stockbrokers and all this.
Yo, I swear, this remind me like all the movies I watched from Boiler Room and all that other stuff, bro. Was it like that?
Yeah, but no, but he's coming from the hood though.
That's what I'm
He's-
saying. It was like that to a degree, but the truth about us, or the truth about me, I'm a chameleon. You gonna put me in a room, I'm a navigator. Right. Like there's a lot of things that I didn't know. And I would tell anybody, don't. We have this. I think we mess up when we say fake it till we make it, right? Because if we all in here faking it,
Right.
we're not learning nothing.
No, we're not.
Right. So I was never afraid to say I don't know this. I don't know. And then I was also blessed with I had some mentors who were like brothers to me. Shout out to my boy Troy, Trish Reed. I had a woman by the name of Evelyn Collier, who was also a black woman who kind of took me under her wing and just kind of sold into me. So I was just working the room. I was just working the room, and then slowly but surely with anything, like if you go to McDonald's right now, you go to Chick-fil-A and you've never worked at Chick-fil-A, you look behind the register at Chick-fil-A and you look at them, that shit looks like chaos, right? I just explain that shit to the same thing. You look at a trading floor, people screaming. We screaming, but we know what we talking about.
Right.
The person in Chick-fil-A, when they screaming about the fries and the milkshake, I'm just waiting for my number 2. I don't know what none of that shit.
Right. No, that makes sense.
But they speak in their language.
Exactly.
Right? If somebody come on the block, we talking our
We
shit.
talking our shit. Yeah.
You ain't never been on the block, you don't know what we talking about.
Exactly.
It's the same stuff. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same stuff. So kind of mastered that, like respectfully.
Are you out of it?
Yeah, I'm done.
You
I
done?
retired at 42 from that. I
Do you
don't
still keep with stocks? Or would you still keep
God
with
damn, you look older than I thought. Yo.
I'm 45.
Dude.
I'm 45.
Man, I'm not.
You look this good at 45.
I ain't
Don't
even
start.
you
Let's
before,
take
but
a
you
fresh
look
one.
like that.
I make you take your hat off.
So do you still deal with
No, I don't. I mean, I have my own personal investments. I mean, I have I have a trained ear to listen to what's going on, like in financial markets.
Okay.
But in terms of like, I don't do anything professionally when it comes to investments.
Okay.
Right. I don't advise anybody. I mean, I have a casual conversation. But again, it ties into, understanding. It helps me understand my job now because I still talk with, people about one of the biggest investments that they're going to make in their lives, which is real estate, right? So, again, I'm in tune with it, but it doesn't pay any of my bills anymore.
Okay.
So,
Which is ill because it leads me to my next question. My next question is like a lot of black people are like don't understand getting and buying a home, owning a home. So we kind of scared because we think it takes so much more money than it really does.
right.
So what are your advice to like black people that trying to move up but don't know how?
Right. Well, I'll say this. My advice is not just to black people, because white people spend money too. And I
Exactly.
Like money.
Yeah, real talk.
Right? So, hey, white people.
And I love y'all. Y'all get my money, yo.
I get your question. So the reality is this, right? Like we just traditionally we don't come from home ownership.
No.
Right? So we don't, and the same thing applied to stocks and all that, but we don't come from, by and large, we don't come from home ownership. So we don't even understand the conversation that we should be having. So all of it is so distant to us, right? So people think, oh, you got to have 20% to put down on a home.
Yeah.
That is not.
That's the
case.
biggest perception. You need over like 10 grand to put down and then you can get out.
Yeah, no, that is not correct. So the correct answer is you have some programs where you can get a house with 0% down. Right, by and large, the most common loan program for first-time buyers and people with challenged credit scores, and I would say challenged credit scores is anywhere between like a 620 and a 650. 620 to 680 is an FHA loan. An FHA loan allows a person to put 3.5% down on a house, right? So what does that mean? What does that mean in numbers, right? So if someone's trying to buy a house for a $200,000 house, the down payment is going to be 3.5%. That's $7,000, right? So when you tell somebody, oh, wow, all you need is $7,000, and also not all you need, but your down payment is $7,000 versus 20%, versus a 20% down payment. $7,000 is somewhat attainable more than 20% more than 20% is.
Yeah.
Okay. So where I find joy in let me take a step back. You mentioned about seeming happier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like how did I lead, right? Like you in anything you do, like y'all doing this, which is awesome. At a certain time, right now y'all got momentum, right? Y'all excited about it, right? It's this. Y'all on this. At a certain point, it will plateau. Then you'll get another burst of energy. It'll go further. But at a certain point, it's just going to do this because your vigor for it is going to leave, right? It was like we've mastered that. We need something big, right? So after doing the Wall Street thing from 16 to 42, 15 years old to 42 years old, that's a long time, right? Like we know people who work city jobs in New York. They do their 20 years and they split, right? 16 to 42. I was really just burned out. Just really I had no interest in it. I never had interest in it. I really just had interest in the bread. Like I never had interest in my job.
Right. So you wasn't happy when you.
No.
You
To
know,
say
you
I
was having money, though.
to say I wasn't happy was to say I was unhappy, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I was indifferent.
Yeah.
Many of us we don't have the luxury of being happy. That's a whole nother excuse me. We don't have the luxury of doing a job that makes us happy or having a career that makes us happy. That's just not the luxury that we have.
No.
We out here trying to. We come from unemployment,
Exactly.
right? Like that's a whole. I come from welfare, right. So if I come from welfare, right, my next step up from welfare is job, right. The next from job is career, right. The next from career is ownership. So many of us don't get from welfare to job.
No.
Right? How is a person who's coming from welfare, right, supposed to think like an owner?
Right. Exactly.
Right? We don't get that at the quote unquote dinner table.
Exactly.
Right? And never mind, like that sounds too American dreamers, right? Like we don't get our casual conversations when we on the stoop in the hood, in front of the building, on the block, whatever. We're not talking about ownership. We're not talking about ownership of nothing. Somebody get a job, we say, yo, how you get on?
For real.
How you get on?
We don't talk equity and nothing.
We don't know nothing about that. So we so far behind. We are so far behind. But
No, and I want to point that out is the talks because, and Dwight knows from being around me for a long time, is what kept me in this neighborhood where we at now is East Cobb. And when I bought my first house with my wife was in Woodstock. So but to rewind that was our whole nature from our culture, and my mom was one of the biggest freaking ones in my culture. It was like, yo, why are you not moving in a black neighborhood? And I'm like, yo, I lived in a black neighborhood all my life.
Right.
I want to be somewhere where it's a little bit more, I want a different journey.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I know who I am, whatever. So then and everybody was hitting me in the head like, nah, you need to go ahead and buy a house out in Southeast or whatever. And I'm like, I lived in the Southeast. When I first moved there in 94, I lived on Washington Road. The two dudes I didn't even know had an apartment for $520 a month with a bathroom in the bedroom. You know how it is when you come to New York, right? You got a bathroom in the bedroom.
Right.
It's like, yo, y'all selling drugs, right? Exactly. I'm like, you coming downstairs, a townhome? Is this 94? And I was bugging out. But at the same time, when I lived there, and then I lived on the east side, and a little bit in Bankhead, I bumped into a couple of people that was just like, well, really my wife. My wife was like, you're not staying there. Right. She lived there before. Right. She was like, you're going to the north side. I'm like, yo, why you pushing the north? My people want to. She was like, we're going to raise kids. We're going to the north side. Right. Now, this is no disrespect to anybody on the east or south side. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not.
We don't have to, like, so all the time we feel like we got to say no disrespect because we feel this guilt of. I do feel that. I'm getting away from y'all niggas because shit is. There's a survivor guilt. Yeah, I understand.
It is, but what I'm saying, you got a kid in college right now, and now you got another daughter going to college.
Yeah, and that's what it was. And that's what I wanted to get to. Going back to what we said, where we're from, with me leaving school early, and I went to Thomas Edison out in New York, which was a good school, but still, just our mindset of I don't want to blame the generation before us, but it was kind of uneasy on us to figure our way.
Yeah.
So I said, I need to go to a place where I'm away, and I'm starting it from here. Now, mind you, we struggled in East Scott.
Yeah.
But my whole mentality, where everybody's like, yo, why you? I was like, because y'all taking our kids to private school. Why not stay in the neighborhood where people where they can just go to the school? And I don't know if it's a big difference. Y'all would know more than me. You would know more than me. But out here, you can still rent in good neighborhoods. Where in New York, you know how hard it is to rent in a good neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So to speak to that a bit is, we're you if you want a good education for your children,
right?
You just have to be in a very good school district.
Right.
Now you're gonna pay. If you're not in a very good school district and you live someplace that the schools are okay, the houses may be a little bit cheaper. But now you're gonna pay to send your kid to private school.
Exactly.
So you're gonna pay one way or the other. Either you're gonna pay in those property taxes to be in a good neighborhood, or you're gonna pay to send your kids to private school. Either way you pay.
Either way you
have to just decide where you want to be in terms of what makes you comfortable.
Exactly.
Right. And what made me? I live in South Fulton. Shout out to South Fulton, city of South Fulton. All the people there. I love South Fulton, and there's some things about South Fulton that I don't love. Right. But they're all intertwined with us. Right. Like we're not monolithic. Right. Like we're very nuanced.
Exactly.
Right. And with us, you're gonna get the great and you're gonna get the not so great. Right. And you have to decide as an individual. We can be friends, right? But what you're willing to put up with may not be what I'm willing to put up with. And as I said, I'm 45 years old now. What I was willing to put up with at 35, my patience is a little bit shorter at 45, right? So, it's no right answer. No, the answer is what works best for you and your family. Exactly. And that's what should be respected.
And that's the only thing I really had because and me and my wife a couple of times going to buy a house, but until then I was like, well, I just want to keep my kids around a good school. They definitely don't want to pull them out and bring them back. I want to keep them around.
That's because all your kids, like I was telling my son the other day, like nowadays, before we didn't see anybody graduate.
No, and that was another thing.
Now you graduated, you went to college, but I didn't know a lot of people that did that.
Exactly.
So it's like now all our kids.
All our kids.
So it's like this is different for them, and it's different. We provided a life so y'all can graduate and do things that we wasn't able to do.
Exactly.
Like, cause my parents I didn't see none of them graduate, and my dad, he had his own business. I look up to my dad because of that.
Right.
Not my real dad. I love him.
That's a whole other story.
I know what it is.
Yeah, but we know. You could have stayed
my
dad.
dad, he raised me.
Right.
He was the first black guy to show me that he owned his own business, and he always was not arrogant. I mean, speaking arrogant. He was real arrogant. He's Jamaican, so he's real arrogant. Always mad.
You done came at the gays, the Jamaicans,
the Mexicans.
Jamaicans think they the shit. Now I'm Jamaican. They think they shit. So he always had that mentality like I'm the shit. I'm like, nigga, you Jamaican, nigga. Keep that flag and keep moving. But
listen. This is the view shared by white. Have nothing to do with Anthony Rogerson and my business. I love the Jamaicans. I love the gays. I love the Mexicans.
Love them all.
You know what I'm saying? Trying to jam me right now.
But to put it all in perspective, man, we love like having this conversation on the change of the generation. And like I said, it's not to be an arrogant show. It's just really, like I said, it's a New York influence show, and all we do is just speaking to people like this.
I get what Anthony.
I know. I get exactly.
He was like, "Well, why y'all keep just saying?" I said, "Because we bubble rest. We have other people from other
yes.
You ain't got to just be from New York to be on this show. No. But we like to say, how did New York influence you some kind of way?
Yes,
yeah. Well, one of the things too, I was, I guess in fairness, I would say, well, how has Atlanta influenced us?
Right. Yes.
Right. Like, and I'm not trying to shy away from we're New York, but one of the reasons why I left New York is because I couldn't afford to live the way I wanted to live in New York, right? And why was that? That was because gentrification came about, right? But what we don't think about, what New Yorkers, and I have family that my son is born and raised here, right? My brother-in-law is original ATL, right? And something that my brother-in-law said to me was, you know, when y'all came here, y'all pushed the values of houses way up,
we did.
right? So that's no different than how our neighborhoods got gentrified.
Exactly.
Right? We did black on black gentrification.
Fucking crazy that we did the same shit to them that they did to us.
Right. So I think it's very important to be respectful of that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
And
definitely.
think about and also, you know, speak to, you know, how Atlanta has influenced us. Like I'm way more. I talk to people like on aisle 7 in Target. How you doing? Good morning. I never did that.
Yo, my first
Yeah.
running on the train. I remember this vividly, bro. Dude just passing by me. I was getting off at Oakland Station, man. He was just like, "What's up?" So saying "What's up" to me on the train.
What's up?
I'm like, I'm setting myself up. Like, okay. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
I'm like, yo, what's up? And he said, nah, folks. I'm just saying, what up? I saw you with the jersey, New York. What y'all say? What up? Right? I'm like, he's like, I'm just saying hello. I said, oh shit,
Yeah.
no, he's actually a thug dude. Is actually just saying hello.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So did I answer your question about the whole real estate thing and just, you know, people thinking about, you know,
Right.
so that's what I want to kind of speak to that really quickly from anybody that talk to a real estate professional, right? Like, and what I mean by a real estate professional, if you're looking to purchase a house, you're gonna have two main people to talk to. You're gonna have your real estate agent and you're gonna have your loan officer. I serve as a loan officer, right? My job is to find out how much you can qualify. Okay. And how we find out how much you can qualify for is we take a look at your credit. Some of the misnomers or whatever on credit is was like, well, I owe $30,000, right, on my credit card. What you owe is not important. It's what your monthly payment is.
Yes.
Right. So what you mean?
No, I know. You know, I know.
I said if you sit out this segment.
No. Let me tell you how I know. Let me tell you how I know.
Is there a mute button?
No.
Where's the button?
No, look, I'm gonna tell you your job real quick. It's about like how much you make and how much you're paying a month.
Correct.
Right.
So that's that. So Dwight is actually correct. I'm messing with Dwight. But that's called your debt to income ratio.
Yes.
Okay. So the two main things that go into how much you can get approved for is your credit score. Well, three main things. Your credit. No, not sorry. What we look at. The two main things is we look at your credit score and we look at your debt to income ratio. Okay, your debt to income ratio, and I'll explain this in most layman's terms, right? Like you make $1,000 a month, right? Right now, you make $1,000 a month. Your current bills are your debts. When we add those debts up, you owe $900 a month, right? So your debt to income ratio is a 90% debt to income ratio. So that means you owe out 90% of what you're making, all right? You're coming to me, you was like, I want to borrow money because I want to buy a house, all right? You make $1,000 a month. You currently already owe $900 a month. Right? You're trying to come to me to borrow $500 more a month, right? I'm going to look at those numbers. I'm going to say, all right, well, you make $1,000, you owe $900, you're trying to get $500 more from me. That means you would be owing $1,400 a month, but you only bring home $1,000.
Exactly.
Nobody's going to loan you money because your scale is unbalanced.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's different percentages that you have to be below. That $1,000, you want to be below $550 a month. That means you have a 55% debt to income ratio. Okay, and that's your existing bills plus your new mortgage. Right. So that's really important. A lot of people are concerned about student loans. How do student loans hurt me? And student loans hurt a lot of people from getting into mortgages. And that's a whole other segment. And but most importantly, I would say anyone that is watching this that wants to get educated about the process, give me a call. Shameless plug. My number is 678-359-3574. Or you can follow me on Instagram. We have these conversations on Instagram. My Instagram is Everybody Say Keys. It's a play on words. Like you get happy, you say everybody say cheese. Everybody say keys. All right. It's like your keys for your house. You can DM me, but we can have a larger conversation just talking about how the process works for home ownership. Okay. But most importantly, have a job, have solid credit, and don't have too much debt. Those are the things that will help you into home ownership.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man.
And that's what we got to here. People don't know. A lot of people perception and think me need more than what they really do. Because we're not taught, like you said, we're not taught growing up. They don't see their dads and uncles having houses and all that. We live in apartments and everybody's 6 cousins and 7 brothers and shit like that.
Eating duck.
Yeah. Nah, man. Actually, duck is good food. You know what I'm saying? You know what? Duck is good. You don't eat duck?
I've had duck. Duck is very oily. But I don't want to eat duck everything.
I don't eat duck.
You eat duck dynasty, man.
Yo, shout out to my Cambodian family. He always think we eat duck.
I don't got nothing against the Cambodians.
We don't eat duck.
The Mexicans.
You like, y'all always eating duck.
I'm like, y'all always eating duck. Every time you was eating duck cereal the other day. Also, what the fuck are you eating duck cereal? Like, but anyway.
First of all, duck is expensive, yo. So yeah.
Anyway, I got and real quick before you go. Speaking of credit, so someone came to me, but was giving their advice to me and wifey about our credit is going up. We work on credit is going up, whatever. But some of the advice we got was just like you said earlier. When wifey freaks out, she handles the credit stuff. She freaks out when there's it's higher on there what it's supposed to be. The usage. She bugs out on the usage. She'll be like, yo, send me $5 real quick. Gotta bring that back down because she said it hits your credit. And she said one time it hit our credit, her score dropped like 100 points.
Well, so what we're talking about here is your credit usage. So let's just say you have a credit card and your maximum that you can put on that credit card is $1,000. Right. If you read anything and say you shouldn't have your usage higher than 33 to 35%. So that means if your max is $1,000, your bill should not be, your current bill with them should not be over $350. Right. If your max is $1,000 and your bill is $800, that means you have an 80% usage. That means you using all the money that they gave you. Right. So that can be looked at as negative. Right. Not all the time. Right. It's really about a pattern, right? Like if you use your credit card, you may use it up to 95% usage, but your pattern shows that you pay it off every month, right? But if you carry a high usage, that's basically saying, and credit card companies want you to carry a high usage because that's what they charge you the interest on, right? And let's just take out a credit card, like, if I loan you money, that's what a credit card does. They loan you money, right? And I tell you, as long as you hold that money, I get 20% interest on that. Right? Like I don't want you to hold that as long as you can. Right? So you want to, as the consumer, what you want to do is try to keep your usage as low as possible, whatever that is, right? Because life happens, and you might need to. I was taught. Look, I have my grandmother was really smart with money, and she taught me about money. So I was blessed and fortunate to have her to teach me about that. What she would always say to me was, you don't use your credit cards for wants. Right, you use your credit card for needs. Right, you keep your credit card in case the refrigerator breaks. Right, or she would always say, my family was from North Carolina, and we was in New York. She was always saying, you keep your credit card in case you got to go home for home in North Carolina. You need emergency stuff. Right, but what happens with us? Often we get our credit cards, and they're predatory. The credit card companies, they come out there and they know we don't know nothing. Right, so they give us these cards. Right, if we can qualify. Most times it happens on college campuses. I remember when I was in college. The first time I stepped on campus, the first day they had all of these credit card people. Now I ain't never had shit. I ain't have nothing. You give me this card and you're like, oh, you got $500 on it. I'm like, damn, I can get some likes. I'm good. And
I ain't gonna lie, I bought a pair of Timbs with my first credit card.
Yeah, stuff that. But it's human nature, right? Like you give somebody access to something that they've never had before. Right, and again, a lot of our stuff we're skewed, right? Like because when you come from poverty, all of us coming from poverty was always trying to look like we had more than what we had. Trying to impress the other broke motherfucker that's standing right there. We all broke. We live in the same building. I know you broke, right? But now, so we get these credit cards. We get a credit card by however way we get it, and now we're not educated on it. And that destroying our credit, it gets us in a rut that takes us years to get back. But all of that is by design. That's a whole nother conversation. Another show. But so to answer your question, it's the usage part, right? You want to keep your usage as low as possible. And the other thing about credit is pay your credit card on time. Like late payments really hurt you. So there's a lot of different moving parts. It's like it's too much to kind of consolidate
No,
and get
I
into.
just wanted to shoot that at you, but I
Like,
appreciate
gotta come to
that.
that mixer.
I appreciate
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's yeah, exactly. We're gonna appreciate that.
Right.
Definitely.
I charge for mixers. Your credit right now is not doing it.
No,
But yo, you remember when
I'm
and
trying to
he's
get
right,
a manager
yo.
on the phone because I know something going on.
This is when we went to New York. We was looking back in the day before they got gentrified, freaking Myrtle Ave. And remember, we was like it was like a fire, and the houses was all messed up by the projects. But each freaking driveway was like all the best cars ever.
That still happens. That still
The
happens.
houses was just torn down,
Yeah, but
each one.
But why that is, right? I had a friend some years ago, and he bought a house. He bought a house in Jersey. Same day he bought a house, he bought some sneakers. Right? He posted the sneakers on Instagram and didn't post the house.
Real talk. Wow.
We're psychologically damaged, and this is not. It was this. He and I talked about it.
That's so deep in so many levels.
No, but here's the thing. So what it really is it's you're gonna get likes on the sneakers.
Yep.
Because your friends, the people that are in your circle, they can see themselves getting those sneakers. Those
They can.
sneakers are attainable in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
But a house,
So
it's,
far.
like, it's so far fetched from. It's like I don't even know how to. I've personally helped people.
That's true.
I'm deep. I'm like the fuck.
Yo, no, I don't even know that. You probably don't know how deep that's super deep.
Yeah,
yo.
but I've had people that I've helped get homes, and we're at the closing. The closing is when you do the final paperwork,
Right.
and they're in their late 40s, early 50s, and I've watched people literally cry, like I never thought this could happen. Like I never thought that this could happen. So so for the viewer or the listener, the best thing that you can do if you're sitting there and you like, I want a house, but I don't know where to start. The best thing to do is to talk to a professional, because there's so many different programs. The housing market is a little tough right now, but there's a lot of programs out there for first-time buyers who don't have assets. Or you may have some assets, people who have jobs, you have money in your 401k. A lot of people don't know that they can use money from their 401k and buy a house. But so to talk about the whole sneaker house thing, he was like, yo, I could never post my house, man. I got cats in the hood right now that they still live with their mother.
Yeah.
A house like that ain't even something that is so far from reality, right? But again, we talk off air or on whatever. We talk about faking it until we might be art. Talk about faking it until we make it. Like we spend too much time amongst ourselves talking about. I have zero patience and tolerance for talking about nothing.
Yes. White tells me that. That's why I know. That's why you said you scroll his.
Yeah,
That's
house.
why when I go to his house, he's always like, all right, Dwight, you ready to go home?
Nah, I can't. Like I
I
bullshit.
be like mad drunk. He's like, you ready to go home? Like,
No. Because we spend too much time. Like this is just my opinion. Obviously, like I'm all for bullshit. I'm all for having a good time and joking. But we have to. She's an inspector, right? I'm a loan officer, right? Like we can't be sitting here for 2 hours talking about nothing, and not spending time talking about the elevation and connectors. And I think oftentimes, particularly us as black men, why you black? Oh, you can't vote.
I'm black.
All right.
I think he's now can't vote.
Us as black men, we spend too much time talking about what our grandfathers and our uncles and the men in our lives, what we saw them talk about, what we saw them do, right? And they was doing what they were doing in the time of they were in the time. But we didn't come up learning about talking about how to progress, right? How like I'm gonna have a like how did y'all get this? Because we talked about like I want to do a podcast. Like how did y'all get these mics? How does this work? We don't spend enough time talking about that.
Exactly.
The betterment. And if
if
you do, it's like, yo, this motherfucker always so serious. Like he don't never. But I don't have that much time to talk. Like time is limited.
And even though it's true, because one of our segments is game changers, and I mean, and one of our best conversations that we're probably gonna have is with people. Our whole thing is people from New York who's behind like some of the machines in Atlanta, like with Shaka Zulu being from New York, behind Ludacris, with Jeter being behind T.I. from day one, who's from Brooklyn. You know what I mean? And in that sense of what you're saying is some of the conversations is what If we can't talk about nothing building, what are we talking about?
I don't want
That's
to talk
it,
about
you know
how
what I mean?
flashy you
That's
are.
why I was
or
like,
how
yeah, I
you
don't
get-
want to hear how. That's why I kind of targeted away from the celebrity to say how your machine works. I want to know who works the machine behind you.
Right.
More so than we gotta keep flashing the artist in front of us.
Right. I get it, and that's the only way we're gonna progress. You know,
Okay.
so but
Alright.
yeah,
I appreciate you coming
No,
through, though, bro.
I appreciate y'all having me. It's an honor.
Appreciate it,
Check
man.
still has the
Great
clear. Who
conversation,
I talk to about that?
We definitely got paid now for this conversation, bro.
Yeah, we got, I'm gonna call, I know Kenyatta probably flew to Miami again or something. He be going out of town and
He
shit.
stay fine. You know, he a jet setter, right?
But where do I get paid? Y'all keep.
No, that's
We keep saying Kenyatta. It's Kenyatta, man.
We need you at this mixer though.
Yeah, nah, it's COVID.
Seriously.
I'm good. Yeah, nah.
Can we FaceTime?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, nah. If the check clears, we can do whatever we want. I'm just, but no, I appreciate y'all having me.
Appreciate it for real.
Dwight, any questions? Anything?
I mean, you pretty much answered everything, yo. I'm happy that you came on, spoke to people because I like to see people that made it, that successfully made it, and can spit your shit because we around so much negative shit, and people faking it that don't
Right,
make
like
it.
you
You know,
said
now we got somebody that's real that made it, and you keep progressing and shit. That's all I wanted to have somebody that's made it and still progressing.
Right, and that's the thing too. Like people, we didn't make I didn't like respectfully. I thank you for acknowledging that. But I'm not, bro. It ain't no making it out here. Like making it means is you stopped, right? Like I gotta get up every day.
Right.
Like we all have to get up every.
Progressing. You still
No,
going.
but we have to get up every day and make this thing turn. Like if you get to the point like yo, I made it. Shit, that's a. Excuse me, I'm sorry. You gotta.
Jay-Z ain't made it yet. He's a fucking billionaire.
Yeah, like you know what I mean. So we out here, we're making it. We're making the best
He
of
made
what
it.
we have.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and we just gotta keep on helping each other out. So,
Yeah.
But if anybody watching, as I said, if you have any other questions with regard to real estate, you can catch me on Instagram, which is Everybody Say Keys. My office number is 678-359-3574. It's been a pleasure being here.
Thank
with
you, man.
guys.
Thank you,
And,
man.
I want to clap.
All right.
That's it.
All right, that's it. Well, I'm Big Marv from Queens, King from Queens.
You know what I'm saying? This white from the Bronx. We got some shit crazy next week.